Welcome to Talking Horses Friday edition. Greg Wolf, Sarah El-Badwi. Andy Serling continues to be on location in Jamaica, living it up. And we're going to see him on our show. We're going to have a little bit, I believe, of him today with some features, but we'll see him for that Mute Mile coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, he's living the dream, right? I mean, staying away from the Aqueduct winter, enjoying some Jamaican sunshine, but seems to also be doing a little bit of work as well.
You know he misses it here.
Of course he does.
Looking forward to this card today. We're going to get into it in a moment. Let's do the business first, how you can play it all. Get signed up, started with NYRA Bets. Match 200, that promo code to use for new members to play everything at nyrabets.com or on the NYRA Bets app. Got a bonus today if you're a NYRA Bets member as well. Bet $75 each on Aqueduct and at Del Mar. I believe it's closing weekend at Del Mar.
Is it?
$15 in your account with your win or lose if you play 75 on each of those tracks. Opt in to take advantage of that promo. We got a middle pick for race 3 today on our card here at Aqueduct. And our coverage starts at noon Eastern on FS2, noon to 4:30 today, and we'll bring you the entire card.
Excited?
Yes, I am excited. This is a good card today. And of course, tomorrow is going to be sensational. We got the Cigar Mile, Go for One, Demoiselle, Remsen, Derby points on the line. Tomorrow's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, and full competitive fields as well. There's no particular standout in many of those races, so I think those sequences could end up paying pretty well.
Yeah. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. Going to kick off this Friday card, $20,000 maiden claiming race, 1-turn mile to begin things, and I'll let you start off.
This is a race where I think that you have to look at the horses that have had less opportunities to disappoint. You took one of them, I took another, and with I Love Cara, this is one that was always wide in his last start on the 11th of November, or the 9th of November, excuse me. That's a day where Inside Speed was very dominant. We saw a class-dropping opportunity set win that race, and that was his first route attempt, and I just felt as though there was enough of a jump in terms of his Beyer speed figures when he got that added distance, had some things against him in between that last start and now, and there was also a very short rest in between starts. The debut was the 17th of August, then ran on both the 2nd and the 9th of November, so now with a little bit more time and perhaps a fair racetrack today, just thought this one could benefit from both of those things.
Yeah, I think the horses who at least had run and showed that ability, I'll get to my pick in a second. I thought at least he's going to be, grinding away and coming late. I thought he of those who've at least shown some ability at this level, he was maybe the one to beat. I wound up going to the 4. I always give that debut, and he only ran on dirt first time out, then he went to turf. And they spent $200,000 on this horse. Hard Spun stands for, what, 35. So initially had to show something to go for that purchase price. Not a great sign. They dropped him in for 40 right off the bat. But debut race, you can always forgive. He had the rail that day. He broke inward from the inside post. And he actually started moving a little bit in that race, showing some ability. And it looks like he just hated the kickback coming. If you look at the head-on of that race, there's a pile of dirt coming back at him, and he completely checks out of it. He was not happy. Another horse looks like he maybe came over and crowded him a little bit. So I'm willing to forgive that performance, give him another shot on dirt. And then he actually woke up a little bit going on grass, so at least he can run a little. And they wanted him on dirt in his first start. That first start as well, Vodka Mardini ran a 76 Beyer that he won with. He came back and ran with a 74 Beyer in his next and 50,000 starter allowance for Linda Rice. Screaming Uncle came back to win. He improved 8 Beyer points, winning for maiden 40. Third place finisher, improved 11 Beyer points next time out in a state bred maiden 30. So at least there have been some horses who've shown some ability and improved out of there, and I'm willing to give him a pass on that debut.
And even the other 2 horses in that race both returned to improve as well, though not winning. One of them still in this race, but Growth Mindset has just had so many opportunities that you kind of think that perhaps you want a horse that might have that upside more so than one that will be a shorter price, though his numbers are going in the right direction.
And he's back in 7 days, though, too.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Anything else on there?
I think Union Tap's another one that's a little bit interesting, just the same idea of a horse that hasn't had as many opportunities to disappoint and also exits the same race as I Love Cara. So I think with those blinkers on, perhaps could get a little bit more forward position. He was just so far back and out of it in that race as well.
Race 2 kicks off the pick 4. It's 40,000 claiming race. Non-winners at 2 life. 1-turn mile coming up. Looking at where you went. Deputy Connect outside. Rob Atras off the claim.
Yeah, I mean, this horse needs to wake up a little bit after his last 2 races, which honestly have been pretty disappointing. But first off, the claim for Atras, he's successful with moves like this over the past 5 years in dirt routes. First off, the claim, he's 17 for 73. And when he ran second for a $16,000 tag to Brooklyn Diamonds, that was actually a pretty tough race for that level at Saratoga. And Brooklyn Diamonds is a horse that returned to win. Non-winners the 3 next out. And then
I think he got an 82
he
buyer
did,
for that
and then legitimized that effort with a second with an 83 buyer versus starter 50, and actually went off favored in that race. So he was running into a horse that was moving in the right direction for Linda Rice. And I think that his last 2 races, I wish they'd been a little bit better or had some sort of excuse for him, but now getting a nice outside stalking position today, and if he can possibly get back to any of the form that he was in prior to that, I think that he could be awfully tough and a square enough price.
Yeah, we're going to look at masterwork in this race. I thought long and hard about making this horse my top selection here. Did have a win against Straight Maidens at Laurel. I assume that's the one we're looking at here.
Yes.
Was dominant against this group. This horse, I thought, more than most in this race, had more upside.
And you can completely forgive the last effort as well, because he was coming off a significant layoff, hadn't run since this effort in March until the 9th, and that was versus starter allowance type, so he's getting the class relief. Now he's second off the layoff, and he also broke pretty slowly, and that again was a day that you wanted to be inside and forward. So I think some things going against him in his last start, and now just is in a much more logical spot.
We're going to be, I wound up ultimately, I picked that horse second. I wound up going to Face of Barrio in here. This horse has the inside, stretching out, sprinter with speed, who's shown turf speed as well. I think this horse gets to the front and is going to be able to keep on going and dictate things on the front end with Jose Lezcano. Linda Rice, by the way, we got to keep an eye on her. She is closing in on a NYRA record. Incredible for most wins on a NYRA circuit in a year. David Jacobson, I believe 2013, set that record. I want to say 164 wins. So she is, I think, 10 away.
Wow, and still a month left, which is pretty incredible.
Well, we're limited in how many days we have left with the break.
True.
Let me confirm that number. Yeah, 164. So she's
Definitely
right
possible.
there. So we'll keep an eye on that with our final shows here as we're getting it. It's already December 1st.
It's incredible, right?
Whew.
Time has flown.
But this horse as well, I've shown ability routing on the grass, so I don't think going longer and stretching out for this horse is going to be a problem, and I think this horse controls.
And he's also first off the claim for her. We know how well she does with that kind of situation, and that was a pretty hotly pressured pace last time out. So I can forgive him for kind of falling apart within that race.
Yeah, I guess the danger for that horse is, thank you, John,
Right.
because that horse is dropping. I think the one has to try and go.
I think
with that inside post, and I think is a little quicker.
I think he's faster. I think it just depends on how aggressive they are with Thank You, John, who does have some speed and certainly can be forward. But I think we might be dealing with a situation where post positions and natural ability kind of might dictate how things play out.
Yep. Middle pick 4, race 3. 50,000 starter allowance, 6 furlong sprint. The 5 for you in your Bobby. I thought so long and hard about taking this horse, and I actually kind of kicked myself for not doing it. What'd you like about him?
I mean, I love that he comes back in a spot that isn't a give-up drop-in class for him, because he was in at a level like this last time, and clearly something must have gone awry, because that was a uncharacteristically poor effort for him. But if we see anything like his race 2 back, which we can take a look at, where he was second to Peros, that was a career best effort for him. He got a 73 buyer speed figure for that. He was forward that day. He got run down by another horse that returned on the grass and won with a 90 buyer, so was keeping some decent company. Linda Rice, we've mentioned, she does well off layoffs as well. These numbers coming back in dirt sprints, they aren't as outstanding as some of her other stats, but they're still certainly not bad. And I thought that I just really like that they weren't giving up on this horse. They're giving him another opportunity at this level as he returns.
He's kind of the other Linda Rice horse in this race. Cunchen Bridge probably going to take more money in this spot, and that's where Jose Lezcano is. But yeah, you look at Bobby the Tank, first time out, he was in an incredibly tough maiden race. Acoustic Ave, 10 Cent Town was in that race. He was a distant third, but he was third to Joey Freshwater, who was very good around that time, the beginning of the year, earlier this year. Yeah, he's got some really good races, and now he comes back as a new gelding. A lot to like with Bobby the Tank. Having said that, I wind up going to Causes Trouble. Has to be able to translate that form from Parks coming in here to New York. He was a vet scratch, I believe it was last week. It was definitely within the last 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. But each of the last 4 races this horse has run, they're at least 3 lengths faster than anybody in this race. So if he just shows up and does anything he's done each of the last 4 races, assuming that form translates from Parks, he's going to win this race.
And he's supposed to be in front here. And I will say that this is a trainer whose runners on this circuit past 5 years, he's 4 for 22. 9 of those 22 have hit the board. So he's sending some live horses out, and some of them have been big prices as well. He has a $4.51 ROI due to a 21-1 and a 15-1. You're not going to get that today, but he's sending the right kind of horse to be successful on this circuit.
Yeah, and look, he may be the quickest horse of this race. He does not have to have the lead, too, to win. He's proven that before. So that doesn't really, concern me if someone does try and gun and take the lead away from him in here. But he may wind up being the fastest anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, Cunchon Bridge is kind of the other horse who just has races that make a ton of sense and finally gets away from Garuvan in here, who he hasn't been able to defeat. And while you might look at that off the turf race last time, there were still some dirt horses within that field. So I feel as though he's another one that's just been very consistent lately, and he's certainly keeping company with a solid group of dirt horses overall throughout his last couple of starts.
Yeah, and figures I look at too, the Thoroughgraph, that last start, even though it matched up with what he did the race before, that was a big jump forward for him. That if there's another move forward outside of Causes Trouble, he's way the horse to beat.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, that starts the middle pick 4, race 4. $16,000 claiming race. This is I had so much difficulty with this race. Mile and an eighth here in this spot. A couple of horses who are dropping down, facing a lot easier in here. And for Wild Banker, it would appear that he needs it. He's been facing so much better, and ultimately that's why I wound up going to him.
Yeah, in situations like this, I would love to be able to make a strong case for anybody else other than a 6-5 entry at a level like this, because sometimes you have that randomness of who's going to show up on whatever day, but I just really could not see past him. The horses that he has been running against tower over anybody else that he's going to be facing in this field, and it's not as though he's running that badly either. I mean, you go back and a couple starts ago, he was 3rd behind Olympic Dreams and Unojo, and Olympic Dreams won yesterday, and that was...
I love that. I'm so happy he won yesterday, because he's been one of my favorite horses all year. And I thought his form had completely tailed off the last couple of starts. But those back-to-back wins that he had earlier this year, I mean, he should be in stakes races off those performances. See him get back and do that. Trevor McCarthy's been a great fit for him, too. I was very happy.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that just goes to show what kind of horses Wild Banker has been facing. And
yeah, film star, Constitution lawyer.
Right, exactly. And anything like the kind of races that he's been able to run lately, just put him in the winner's circle here.
I will say, and Bobby G, we both have second as well. I mean, he's faced, especially at this distance at a mile and eighth. I mean, he faced Accelerator at a mile and eighth. That's a horse probably 1-2 in this race. That was at Laurel. He's facing easier too. And this obviously, horse knows how to win. He's getting up there. He's 9-year-old, but 17-time winner, almost $500,000 in earnings. Another logical horse that's taken a drop down in class.
Right, and you might see the out-of-town form and kind of wonder where he fits class-wise, but he's run on this circuit before. He had that one start at Saratoga that in terms of just the number that he was able to keep, it was in keeping with what we'd seen from him in the past. So I don't think you can discount him completely.
What were we going to show with Cool Quartet? 10-time winner in here, Manny Franco, Orlando Noda.
Just seems like if you're against the favorite and you don't trust the out-of-town form for Bobby G, it just seems like a horse that is one to gravitate to for some. But with him, I have a tough time trusting him because he seems like he shows up with a good performance and then they try him a little bit over his head and then he doesn't quite bring that same type of form. But this is his last win, and while it was over a horse in Durkin's Call that doesn't necessarily like to find himself in the winner's circle, Durkin's Call has been in great form lately.
And I'll say last thing here, don't be late. Outside post in here, Heeman Harkey loves to send. He is not afraid of being aggressive, and this horse has speed outside, and he's got some efforts that match up against this group.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you always have to ask yourself with these major drops in class, why is this happening? And then you might have horses that fit this level that are just going to show up with the same types of consistent efforts that if the class droppers don't, you'll get them at decent prices.
And look, with Olympic Dreams yesterday, I thought his form had gone south, and that's why I even though I love him, I stayed away from him. But Wild Banker, Bobby G, those two, their form has tailed off a little bit too.
Right.
Can they get back? There's nothing like a drop to help you get back to that form.
I mean, speak of big engine yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. 5 and then break?
Sure.
Okay, so let's move on to race 5. Late pick 5 starts here. Maiden special weight, 7/8 of a mile in this spot. Very practical first timer for Shug McGahee, your selection.
Yeah, this is actually one of my Game of Silks horses. But I liked the workout for this horse. She ended up working in 10 flat, sold at the OBS April sale, and was asked a little bit, but I thought overall just a very snappy, efficient type of mover that once she was sort of in gear, they stopped bothering her and persevering with her. She wasn't ridden out with the crop the whole way and seems to have some ability to be putting these kinds of drills together for a barn that doesn't necessarily crank their first-time starters to win. If she's working quickly, it's not because she's being pushed to do so by this trainer who's generally more patient. And there's some pedigree as well. I mean, some of the siblings that have run here are minor winners, but she's a half to an 800,000 plus winner overseas in MAF tools. So I thought with the precocity, a little bit of the practical jokes and just the works that she's been showing, she could be a little bit interesting first time out.
How did you feel about, I mean, obviously Nikitas Kurlandskog are going to take the majority of their money in here. Did you feel like they were way, I know you went elsewhere, but are they way the ones to beat in here?
I mean, looking at the kind of numbers that Nikitas has been able to put forward, I would say that she's clearly the horse to beat. But I kind of have some questions about the horses that she's been facing overall. And I just wonder if there's possibly a first-time starter in here or even Winning Touch, who you ended up going with, that could be a little bit better than horses that she's faced, because some of them have returned and either run the same number or have regressed a little bit. And I just don't know that she's facing great horses overall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't think there was this massive standard. They're going to take a ton of money. It's Chad Brown, and obviously Kurlandskog, well-bred, but it's a little more bred for the grass, and that's where they started this filly. I wound up going to Winning Touch in here. The debut, she actually took money first time out for the Rick Dutcho barn, who's going amazing right now. The Dam was a stakes winner on the dirt. She actually was grade 1 place in the Coaching Club American Oaks as well, and had to deal with a sloppy sealed track. There's a chance she didn't like that at all, moves way up, and could just move way up anyway, second time having that experience under the belt, but getting a fast track today. And the Dam actually produced hopeful winner, grade 1 winner, Sporting Chance for D. Wayne Lukas.
Yeah, exactly. So you know that there's some precocity as 2-year-olds within the family, and I think as you've already said, you can forgive a first time out. And while that was only a 4-horse field, this horse took some money.
Yeah. Quick break. Come back, late pick 4.
Let's do it.
Saratoga Water, our sponsor. We'll be back.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
Back on Talking Horses, we're going to pick it up with the late pick 4. Greg and Sarah with you. A state-bred first allowance condition race here, 6 furlongs coming up, and we're going to show Icy Flavor. I guess let's go ahead and show that, because that's my top pick in the race. Why'd you pick this one out?
I think that there's a potential for a pretty contested pace in here, but I think that to ignore this horse completely would be kind of silly, because he actually ran really well in this start on the dirt. It was a sloppy sealed track, and he'd done the majority of his running on the turf and did switch back to that surface. But I thought it was interesting enough that they kept him in this off the turf race, and he didn't really disappoint. I mean, he's quick, and from the inside, you know that he's going to go. I just thought that there might be some pressure today, and it might have been a situation where he appreciated the off going a little bit more.
I like him. You looked, and especially horses coming off long layoffs. So you got my man Matty, who's coming off the bit. Probably, you know, when you come in fresh, you're going to fire out of there usually too. He's quick. Forward motion is quick. I think he is the quickest. He's got legitimate turf sprint speed, which is always more dangerous than dirt sprint speed. It's faster. And Kendrick is going to take advantage of that, especially from that inside post, as you talked about. But even if he does not, for some reason, get to the front, he's going to be right there, sitting off the leaders. And I really like that race that we showed. The fact that the blinkers are coming off, He can settle, relax, and he's going to have more finish today. As a result of that, I would have loved him stretching out actually even better. But I think he's very dangerous in this spot. That's why I made him my top pick.
Yeah, I totally get the things to like about him. I just ultimately went in a different direction, thinking and hoping, and usually it doesn't play out this way, but there would actually be an honest pace for once, and it might start to come apart a little bit. And Dr. Settle's Dream is one that he has that good dirt race for a tag, and while that was a situation where it was an off the turf race, he actually ran really well at a big price to be third in there. Maybe didn't appreciate the off going as much last time, but he was also running against horses in General Banker as well as G Munning, so keeping some decent company in his dirt start after that, though it was versus Staples just like this is. And I thought that honestly this isn't an easy field by any means, but you have some question marks with horses coming back from layoffs that he was one that had the recency, would be enough of a price, and I thought would sit a little bit off the pace.
Yeah, I mean, this is a fun race. I mean, you have Signal Corps for Todd Pletcher. He got a pretty big figure for that debut all the way back in March in his debut. That was a muddy, sealed track. We have not seen him since, and he was favored that day for the debut. They spent a decent amount of money on an Army Mule. So interesting to see what he could do coming back. But for me, my man Matty the 5 was sort of the really interesting one, and we'll get to in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, this is a horse that's going to take money, and deservedly so. He was able to inhale this field first time out. As you said, took money on debut. That's meaningful. It was against Statebreds, and these are the same types of conditions that he's coming into to face winners for the first time. And you might look at the layoff and wonder, where has he been? But Todd Pletcher, off 180-plus days, he knows what he's doing, and these horses come back ready to go.
Yeah, and he could, but if we do get a hot pace, he could sit right off. He might get a perfect trip in here. My man Matty, first couple races, first two starts of his career,
they were
it's not even
impressive.
close. I mean, those were by far quicker than what anyone in this race has produced. But what has happened the next two starts?
Right.
You can forgive the last, I guess, because he went to the bench. But what about before that?
Exactly. I mean, it was a little bit of a regression than the start prior to that, where he ended up breaking his maiden. But in terms of Beyer speed figures, it's actually pretty similar when he was third that day. I think that maybe it's a little bit disappointing considering what he did when breaking his maiden and also finishing second on debut to today's Flavor. And we know how good now he ended up being. But you also have to wonder, where has he been as well? He's been off since February, and he does have that start where he was really disappointing as the favorite last time, but he should be forward.
Both those two coming back off the bench make this race really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Even Dr. Kraft is, I don't think, completely out of it either. Gets Ira Ortiz Jr. board, and he has some races as a 2-year-old that would make him pretty tough in here as well.
Yeah. Race 7, $14,000 condition claiming race, 1-turn mile coming up here. The race that kicks off the late pick 3, and I went with Union Lights in this spot, and I just looked at this horse in terms of, there's not a lot of consistency in this race. This horse is actually very consistent for this group. 4 of his last 5 starts, thoroughgraph-wise, he's run the exact same number, which is 3 lengths or more quicker than anybody else in this field. So all he needs to do is reproduce that. You talked about that Brooklyn Diamonds race earlier in the card. He was in that race. I know a distant second to Brooklyn Diamonds, who ran an 82 Beyer in that race, came back with an 83 Beyer next time out. Unusually difficult non-winners, a 3:14 claiming race. So I think if he just runs as he has been, that's enough to get the win here.
Yeah, the only little concern I have with him is just that he's run second 5 times, and a lot of them have been recent. But when you look at who he's faced and the kind of consistency he brings to the table in a race like this, when you have those $14,000 claiming horses, you can sort of rely on a horse like Union Lights to give you what effort they're going to give you, and it might be good enough to get the win today. And I think that you definitely have to respect his chances, because there isn't a ton of consistency to go on in this race. And I mean, a horse that I took isn't exactly a reliable type either. Finished second as the favorite last time, then avoided claim, and then off for quite some time. We haven't seen him since March 30th, but if he can get back to some of the numbers that he used to run, and that's Regality, I think that he's a horse that could at least be a little bit interesting and would at least be 3rd, 4th choice perhaps in here.
Yeah, meanwhile, we're going to show MB's Money. Wayne Potts coming off a win. That was back on November 17th. That was sprinting at 32-1.
How was this horse this big a price? I mean, I think that this is not a horse that I had in my top selections by any means, but I think that 32-1 was kind of crazy for him. And while he is stretching out in distance, he was able to come from off the pace this day, so perhaps he's a little bit closer today. And I think just in general, this is a barn that we've quietly seen have some horses that are running better races lately. Striking Speed is one of them. He seemed to be really tailing off in terms of his recent form, and then came back with some pretty good efforts lately. So I think that this is a barn worth paying attention to going forwards, because their horses are running quite a bit better.
It's what he'd done in the race prior to that at the same condition. There's no way he should have been 32-1 in that
Right.
race when he hit the board.
Insane price.
Can we go back in time? I wish.
If only.
Yeah. Race 8, 1 turn mile, allowance optional claiming field. In this spot, we're going to see Linda Rice with both Hot Fudge and Movie Moxie here on the outside. I was shocked that Movie Moxie actually is running today. This horse has been a vet scratch each of the last 3 times this one's been entered.
Yeah.
But excited to see this one back, because at a mile, last time out, this horse ran a huge figure beating Gerrymander.
She did, and she's just been so consistent overall, and when we actually do get to see her on the racetrack. And you know that there have been intentions to get her back running, and things haven't quite worked out that way, but finally ends up passing all the necessary examinations to be here today and play in a very competitive race, I think, too, and runs into her stablemate and Hot Fudge to her inside. But anything like this sort of effort, which was a career best for her with a 93 Beyer, I mean, she's going to be pretty tough, and gets that nice outside post as well.
Huge number, yeah, with that performance, and beating Gerrymander, beating Venti Valentine, who came back to win out of that race, but has been away for a little while. And she's faced Hot Fudge on a couple of occasions, her stablemate, and she's not been able to beat her.
And I think Hot Fudge is going to be more forwardly placed than she
She's
is.
going to be in the lead, isn't she?
Right, and that's another thing to kind of put a feather in her cap, and we can take a look at one of her past races where she was successful, and we haven't seen her in a little bit of a while either, but maybe the only thing that you wonder about with her is getting that extra furlong, as she last won at the 7, but I don't really see it being a major problem for her. Her only try at a mile was against Echo Zulu.
Who no one's going to beat.
Right, ever again, truly.
Yes, and look, last time out she beat Rosebud, she beat Chi-Town Lady, who's a Grade 1 winner, won the test on that crazy wet track a couple of summers ago at Saratoga. Hot Fudge is going to control in this race. I think makes her really dangerous in this spot. I think in a few ways, is it Evidencias?
Sounds right to me.
Interesting, one of the most interesting horses on the card today. Just that one dirt start. It was a Group 2 win at 1.25 miles. Now here for Clement, getting on dirt after that Athene on the grass. I'm interested to see what this horse can do on the dirt.
Yeah, I think that this is a legitimate enough wild card within this race that I couldn't make a case for, but if you can, you're going to get a fair price. And look, the evidence is there that this horse can at least handle the surface and is cutting back in distance, where you have Hot Fudge, who is stretching out, trying to get that mile successfully for the first time.
But been successful at 7/8, and it just seems like controls on the front end. Couple of scenarios today where it looks like Linda Rice runners can do that.
Yeah, I think so too.
Nightcap, State Bred Maiden Special Weight, 6 furlongs to close things out. And Todd Pletcher, first-time starter, who had a pretty big drill at the Tipton Timonian sale, 10-1 work, is going to make this horse the favorite.
And look, this horse could certainly be legitimate, and it's, it's Rapoli, it's Ira Ortiz, it's Todd Pletcher, all the things to have this horse take a significant amount of money, and the works are there as well, so it's not just a connections play. But at the same time, I wasn't really necessarily in love with the pedigree for this horse to take this one at first asking at a short price.
No, Second Dam was a Grade 3 place dirt sprinter, but it's that work, obviously, that where this horse went for $350,000 as well. But you wind up going with this one, huh? But you're not that.
Oh, I should have been 8-4.
8-4. Okay, so we need to swap those for Sarah.
My mistake, probably.
So Spite's Dance, we're going to see.
Yes.
What'd you like with Spite's Dance?
I like that they're sort of moving with confidence with this horse, who in her dirt debut was facing Tavin and was up close to a pretty pressured pace in there. And we saw Tavin come back and not run quite as well, but a little bit unlucky in her next start when switching barns. And that's a horse that was dropping in class as well. So maybe it was the class relief, but it was also probably getting onto a surface that she might have appreciated a little bit more experience as well, and gave this one a pretty good try towards the end of this race. Really wasn't going to let Tavin just open up by open lengths and win. So I like that they then say, okay, we're going back into the maiden special weight ranks.
Love that. Yeah, it shows confidence.
Exactly, because they don't have to do that. They could keep her in for a tag, and I think that they've seen enough that they want to give this horse another opportunity on the surface, sprinting, to see what they have going forwards.
Yeah, put blinkers on in that race last time. New surface, equipment change, and completely woke up. So yeah, there's lots to like with Spice Stance in there. I wound up going to the one in here, Troubled Luck. This horse debuted on grass. Was a huge price, 80-something to 1, and then gets on dirt, start number 2 at this level, and was, 5-2 in that spot. And this horse actually gets shut off in the rail in the stretch, then had to wait on horses to go by, winds up going about 5 wide to finally put in a run, and then was between horses. I thought the horse actually showed some ability in that spot. 34 Buyer is not going to get it done, but I think it was a lot better race than the 34 Buyer shows. And second time on dirt, we're going to see some forward progression from Troubled Luck. The other one I'll say, and you have the horse fourth, Linda Rice doesn't win in these races first time out a lot, but 5-2, it seems like there's a lot to like. It's the first foal from this dam, who actually won her second start at a mile. But the second dam was AC Ducey, who's a Grade 1 winner of the Prioress, won the Cumley as well that we have coming up this weekend. The dam was a half to a stakes winner as well, preaching to the devil. So pedigree-wise, a lot to like with 5-2, but we talk about it a lot. Mig says it a lot too. First-time starters breaking from the outside, a lot of times it's an issue breaking to open space to the outside. We'll see if this horse maybe needs a start. But pedigree-wise, there's a lot to like with the 10.
Definitely one to keep an eye on moving forwards, because Linda Rice is the trainer that has significant improvement with her horse's second time out as well. So there's a lot going for this horse. Maybe not today, but maybe next time to watch for sure.
What, if anything, are you focusing on wagering today?
I'll have an early pick 5 ticket available on our America's Day at the Races show,
Right.
$36 play. I think that there might be some more opportunities early on in the card. I think that you and I see the 8th race pretty similarly, and you're not going to get a ton out of a horse like Hot Fudge, being a horse that I would probably single in most of my tickets. But I think tomorrow's really the plan. You have a late pick 4 sequence that I think will end up paying pretty well within those races. And even if you have logical horses within all the stakes, you can't possibly use them all and have an affordable ticket. So really looking forward to tomorrow's card for the bulk of my wagering.
Okay.
What about you?
I like this late pick 5 today. I'm gonna play the late pick 5 today. Again, we need some upsets in here, but it's this time of year, weather turns cold, we get results that it's not the big name barns dominating constantly like we see a lot of early on in the year. So we'll see. But yeah, I got to save some ammo for tomorrow as well.
Right, exactly.
Good luck, everybody. Hope you enjoy talking horses. Good luck wagering this afternoon. And yes, save some money for tomorrow as well, because it's a fantastic card. Hope you join us on America's Day at the Races again. Get signed up, started, play all the action with NYRA-Bets. $200 deposit match sign-up bonus. Promo code to use at sign-up is match200. Go to the app or go to NYRABets.com. We have that $15 bonus. Got to opt in for this. Don't forget, at NYRA-Bets. Bet $75 each on Aqueduct and last few days to play at Del Mar. So get $15 in your account if you bet those 2 tracks, whether you win or lose. We have a middle pick 4 today, beginning in race 3 here at Aqueduct. And our coverage, Sarah's going to kick things off at noon Eastern. I step in, I believe, around 2 o'clock. We're on until 4:30 on FS2 to bring you the entire Friday card as we are into December already. Holiday party next week?
Yes, Friday, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So good
Exciting
luck,
stuff.
everyone, and we'll see you on the air in just a little bit.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.